An only child is a person with no siblings, either biological or adopted. In a family with multiple offspring, firstborns may be briefly considered only children and have a similar early family environment, but the term only child is generally applied only to those individuals who never have siblings. An only child, however, may have half-siblings or step-siblings who come along considerably late after they reach their teens and still be considered an only child. Children with much older or younger siblings, generally 10 or more years, may also have a similar early family environment to only children. Throughout history, only children were relatively uncommon. Over the 20th century in particular, birth rates and family sizes fell sharply for a number of reasons, including increasing costs of raising children and more women having their first child later in life. The proportion of families in the U.S. with only children increased during the Great Depression but fell sharply during the post-World War II baby boom. After the Korean War ended in 1953, the South Korean government suggested citizens each to have 1 or 2 children. Economic prosperity, which resulted in significantly lowered birth rates and a larger number of only children to the country. Since 1979, the one-child policy in mainland China has restricted most parents to having only one child, although it is subject to local relaxations and individual circumstances.
Families may have an only child for a variety of reasons, including personal preference, family planning, financial and emotional or physical health issues, desire to travel, stress in the family, late marriage, stability, focus, time constraints, fears over pregnancy, advanced age, infertility, divorce, and death of a sibling or parent.
Only children are sometimes said to be more likely to develop precocious interests from spending time with adults and to feel lonely. Sometimes they compensate for the aloneness by developing a stronger relationship with themselves or developing an active fantasy life that includes imaginary friends. Children whose only siblings are much older than them sometimes report feeling like an only child. Advantages cited of having an only child is that there is no sibling rivalry and that it becomes possible to take the child to an event suitable for their age without having to bring along a disinterested sibling. A disadvantage is that it can be harder for an only child to single-handedly look after his aging parents.
In Western countries, only children are often the subject of a stereotype that equates them with spoiled brats. G. Stanley Hall was one of the first commentators to give only children a bad reputation when he referred to their situation as a disease in itself. Even today, only children are commonly stereotyped as spoiled, selfish and bratty. While many only children receive a lot of attention and resources for their development, it is not clear that as a class they are overindulged or differ significantly from children with siblings. Susan Newman, a social psychologist at Rutgers University and the author of Parenting an Only Child, says that this is a myth. People are articulate that only children are spoiled, they're aggressive, they're bossy, they're lonely, they're maladjusted. She said there have been hundreds and hundreds of research studies that show that only children are no different from their peers. However, differences have been found. Research involving teacher ratings of U.S. children's social and interpersonal skills, while a later study failed to find evidence this continued through middle and high school. A further study showed that deficits persisted until at least the 5th grade. In China, perceived behavioral problems in only children have been called the Little Emperor Syndrome, and the lack of siblings has been blamed for a number of social ills such as materialism and crime. However, recent studies do not show no significant difference in personality between only children and children in larger families. The one-child policy has also been speculated to be the underlying cause of forced abortions, female infanticide, underreporting of female births, and has been suggested as a possible cause behind China's increasing number of crimes and gender imbalance. Regardless, a 2008 survey given by the Pew Research Center reports that 76% of the Chinese population supports the policy. The popular media often posit that it is more difficult for only children to cooperate in a conventional family environment as they have no competitors for the attention of their parents or other relatives. It is suggested that confusion arises about the norms of ages and roles, that a similar effect exists in understanding during relationships with other peers and youth all throughout life. Further, it is suggested that many feel that their parents place extra pressure and expectations on the only child, and that often only children are perfection, since only children are noted to have tendency to mature faster.
The only statistically significant difference discovered was that only children possessed a higher achievement motivation, which Pollitt and Falbo attributed to their greater share of parental resources, expectations and scrutiny, exposing them to a greater degree of reward and greater likelihood of punishment for falling short. A second analysis by the authors revealed that only children with only one sibling and firstborns in general score higher on tests of verbal ability than later-borns and children with multiple siblings.
So these are all the people I know and go animate that are an only child.